Well, it used to be called the hate that dare not speak its name. But these days, anti-Semitism seems to be at the forefront of American media discourse and popular culture. Just this past week has seen multiple instances of comments and developments that are relevant to the subject and the debate over what exactly constitutes denigration of Jews and Jewish identity. Well, let's start with yesterday's comments made by Joe Rogan. He's the most popular podcaster in the U.S. He's got some 11 million listeners per episode. But here's what he had to say, speaking with the political commentator, Crystal Ball, talking about the Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's past comments on the influence of so-called Jewish money in Washington, D.C.
Sitting next to Ilhan Omar, where she's apologizing for talking about it's all about the Benjamins, which is just about money. She's talking about money.
She shouldn't have apologized.
That's not an anti-Semitic statement. I don't think that is. It's about Benjamins or money. You know, the idea that Jewish people are not into money is ridiculous.
Listen,
that's like saying Italians aren't into pizza. It's fucking stupid.
Listen,
it's fucking stupid.
I understand that the way she phrased it, like she could have phrased it a different way so that people would have less of a freak out. But can you not talk about the influence of money in D.C.?
Of course.
This is very obvious. There's a very obvious reason why for my entire life there's been a uniparty consensus around our policy vis-a-vis the Israeli government and a total inability or unwillingness to criticize the Israeli government. It has everything to do with organization and, yes, money.
Well, joining us now from New York is our senior U.S. correspondent, Mike Wagenehim. Also from New York, Emily Austin, sports personality and activist, and herself a growing influence on social media. And Mike, people I think outside the U.S. may not understand just how popular Joe Rogan is and how influential he's become. What kind of reaction has these kind of statements made?
It's got a $200 million contract from Spotify, so I'm not so sure who's really interested in the money here after all. You know, it's drawn a basic reaction from Rogan because he's so popular that, listen, he said himself, everybody should be able to express their opinion. Essentially, doesn't matter how outrageous it is. And the more outrageous it is, it seems to be better for him anyway because it draws more listeners. It draws more critics, which in turn draws more listeners. So controversy is key for him to begin with. And so a subject like Kanye West, like Ilhan Omar, doesn't matter what kind of bio they're spouting. As long as people are talking about it, he wants to talk about it as well. So there you go. I'm not so sure if Joe Rogan is honed in on the concept of anti-Semitism and magnifying it, but it's just part of his overall personality, it's part of his overall success to bring whatever controversy of the day is, which nowadays the anti-Semitism is high on that list, and bring it to his show and present it to the masses and say, you know what, it's all okay because everybody is just expressing their opinion. That's the Joe Rogan experience, essentially.
All right, but we should note that Jewish organizations have spoken out, such as the American Jewish Committee about this. Emily, what is striking here is that Joe Rogan is someone who is more associated, say, with the political right in the U.S. or the libertarian right. Crystal Ball, as guest, is more associated with the left. But it seems as if one of the things they can agree on here is a anti-Semitic trope about the influence of Jewish money. It seems to come from just all sides of the spectrum here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, I don't know if Joe Rogan, I'm sure everyone's aware of how anti-Semitic Ilhan Omar is. So to quote her and be like, oh, it wasn't anti-Semitic, automatically you know that that's wrong. Secondly, you cannot possibly think that comparing pizza to the Italian culture is the same thing as comparing an anti-Semitic trope used to incite years and years of hate and violence against the Jewish people is even comparable. And then lastly, Joe Rogan has such a huge influence, and you'd have to be quite ignorant to not understand that anti-Semitism is probably higher than it's ever been, on the rise in light of Kanye West, Kyrie Irving. I can name you 10 more celebrities that have been using their platform to spread lies and hate. And the last thing we really need right now is Joe Rogan to add to those people that think it's cool to hate on the Jewish people. I think it's possibly okay to compare that to pizza to the Italians. Like, come on.
All right, well, we're going to see if Joe Rogan makes any kind of clarification or apology in the coming days. But Emily, Mike, stay with us. Also this week, the NBA basketball star Kyrie Irving also again in the news. Now, he was roundly criticized by Jewish groups and many others for promoting an anti-Semitic film on his Twitter feed last autumn. Now, Irving gave a sort of apology. That was only after intense public pressure, but he has done all right since. This week he demanded and was traded by the Brooklyn Nets to the Dallas Mavericks in search of a bigger contract. This despite the fact that the Mavericks' Jewish owner, Mark Cuban, was among those who had condemned Irving, saying he was, quote, not educated about the impact of his social media platform. And Emily, you follow the sports world very closely, in touch with these people. What do you make of it? I mean, how does it sit with you? Mark Cuban, who criticized Kyrie Irving publicly, now giving him a warm welcome in Dallas and not really even relating so far to his previous comments, previous actions.
Yeah, so honestly, knowing Mark Cuban and knowing that he is Jewish, and I know he does a lot, especially with the Mavericks, to try to build those bridges, I look at this unpopular opinion as an opportunity for now Mark and Kyrie to develop a relationship. And hopefully, like Mark said, maybe he's just not educated enough. I don't believe in cancel culture. I don't believe in, again, using your platform to spread hate and lies. This could be an amazing opportunity for Kyrie to learn about his own history, learn about Jewish history. And honestly, I hope Mark Cuban can use this as an opportunity to tell him, by the way, like on the side, there has to be no cameras, nothing. Listen, here's what you said. This is why it's wrong. This is the truth. And I hope that Mark will use that as an opportunity, because if not, it's just a waste. And it's not a good look. It's just not a good look.
Yeah, I don't know how he received in Dallas. Certainly a great basketball talent, Mike, but I'm sure there were some there in Brooklyn who aren't going to be sorry to see Kyrie Irving depart for Texas.
No, in fact, the owner of the Nets, it was reported, absolutely refused to send Irving to his number one choice, the Los Angeles Lakers, even though they apparently had the best deal on the table. That's how angry and frustrated he was at Irving and making sure that he didn't wind up in a better situation elsewhere. I do want to note this. It's going to be very interesting, and I think it's only a matter of time before Yeshiva University graduate Ryan Terrell, who's making all sorts of waves in the NBA's minor league, gets called up to the Detroit Pistons, and the Mavericks and Pistons wind up playing each other. I think everybody in the Jewish community is going to be wind up watching the game that day. Whether Cuban can re-educate Irving, I'm not so sure. Keep in mind, Irving, the second he was traded, almost the second he was traded, took down from social media his apology that he issued many months ago to the Jewish community for all the controversy that surrounded his previous comments. I'm not so sure he's really interested in learning any lessons, Calev.
Yes, it was noted, and it was noted on social media that tweet was taken down, and Mark Cuban also getting it pretty bad on social media relating to this whole issue of welcoming Kyrie Irving. Well, again, Emily, Mike, stay with us. There is more. Now, the accusation that some American Jews are not making a positive contribution to the cultural discourse surrounding their own ethnic or religious brethren, or even the opposite, is also swirling around the new Netflix film, You People, co-written and starring the American Jewish actor Jonah Hill. The movie is being accused of presenting negative Jewish stereotypes and not taking serious anti-Semitism in the African-American community. Here's a brief clip of that maybe could serve as an example.
So you're all Muslim?
Very much so.
I love it.
This kufi that I'm wearing was actually a gift from the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Are you familiar with the minister's work?
Well, I'm familiar with what he said about the Jews.
And Emily, you said you're not into cancel culture. We'll note that this movie is a comedy, and it's taking laughs at some might say as black characters too. But you've spoken out on the fact of Jews trying to be proud of their heritage, be positive about it. A lot of people questioning if You People is more of an example of just using somewhat by now tired Jewish stereotypes, especially in relation or the relationship with the African American community.
I was actually very disturbed with the feedback. I believe in comedy, but I don't believe in a movie that's showing the world we cannot coexist. I don't care what you are, what your skin color is, what your religion is. This movie is showing, look, if a black person and a Jewish person want to live their lives together, it won't work, and here's why. And they did it with comedic relief, but I strongly disagree with that. I just did Holocaust Remembrance Day with the Miami Heat. Why did I choose the Miami Heat? Because they have a very strong passion about building the Black community. I have a strong passion about building the Jewish community. And we try to build bridges. We try to unite, find common denominators, not show, look, here's why we're different, and let's just accept that. That's not acceptable.
Right. Mike, just a final word. It seems that all the efforts by those in the American Jewish community to discuss the issue seriously of anti-Semitism, yet again and again, just one has to wonder if it's making any kind of real impact in the broader cultural community in the U.S.
You know, some of these things, Calev, simply take time, and it might be too early to really understand the depths of the anti-Semitism that's permeated the culture, especially during the COVID pandemic, and how long it might take to get back to, if we can even call it normal levels, whatever that is, but at least prior levels of anti-Semitism in American society. No, they're not paying immediate dividends, all of these efforts, but I don't think they're all in vain. I think time will only tell here as it rolls along exactly how relevant and how appropriate those efforts really were in trying to fight anti-Semitism. Those things, anti-Semitism didn't skyrocket overnight. It's not going to go down overnight either, Calev.
All right, Mike West, listen, I love talking to you too. I hope we can give this subject a bit of a rest and find something else to talk about rather than anti-Semitism or Jewish stereotypes. But unfortunately, that may well not be. That may well not be the case. Emily Austin, Mike Wagenehim, thank you for that.